So we've been looking at some of the lowlights from the Brett Kavanaugh hearing, but I also noted that essentially the entire Brett Kavanaugh hearing was a ginormous lowlight. Essentially, is that all of it in summary, when you put them together, the whole hearing was just a complete circus. It was a complete joke. It was essentially a clown show because you have this insane guy who's sitting there who is clearly far too incompetent to serve as one of the 9 Supreme Court justices. So obviously incompetent to serve because he is exhibiting characteristics of people who are massively partisan, who are just unable, who are unfit to serve because they're showing these qualities that are not qualities of people who are rational thinkers, but people who are essentially children in a man's body, if you will. Now here, this one really pissed me off personally. So in this one, Amy Klobuchar asked a question about whether or not, I think she asked if he got blackout drunk, and Kavanaugh believes that it is somehow justified, appropriate, or acceptable to ask Amy Klobuchar whether or not she has gotten blacked out drunk. Check it out.
You're saying there's never been a case where you drank so much that you didn't remember what happened the night before or part of what happened?
That's, you're asking about, yeah, blackout. I don't know. Have you?
Could you answer the question, Judge? That's not happened. Is that your answer?
Yeah, and I'm curious if you have.
I have no drinking problem, Judge.
Yeah, nor do I.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was extremely painful to watch, and I'll tell you exactly why. The reason why it was so painful to actually watch is because that is not something that is appropriate to respond to a question when you are. Just think about it, man. You are literally, this is essentially a job interview is the way people are putting it. I guess, I don't know. I guess it's a good way to put it. I'm not 100% sure, but you are in a position where you are now being nominated to go to be one of the justices. You're historic. Anytime you're on the Supreme Court justice, you go down in history because there's so few of them. Only 9 justices on the court at a time. Well, there can be less if there's vacancies, but you get the point. So you're talking about this guy being asked a very obviously important question because you're talking about, to what extent did you drink? How bad was your drinking? And it's just, come on, it's such an obviously important question, especially when we have, Yale classmates of his coming out and saying he lied. He literally lied under oath because he actually was indeed an excessive drinker. He drank to excess. He did not rarely or just on weekends drink. No, he was a sloppy drunk. He drank an insane amount of beer. He would get extremely drunk. So it's a totally valid question to ask coming from Amy Klobuchar, and I'm not even that big of a fan of Amy Klobuchar. She's sort of a corporate Democrat, but in this situation, the question that she's asking is a totally 100% clearly understandable, valid, important question that needs to be answered. Because if you say, did you ever black out drunk? A lot of bad things happen when you black out drunk because you do shit that you don't remember. You went under the influence massively, you wake up the next day and you don't remember, and that's something that's important to know. But aside from it clearly showing that Brett Kavanaugh is a bullshitter in terms of him lying, what kind of an imbecile would imagine for even a second, or assert for even a second, that this guy who is showing the maturity and the intellectual ability of a 2-year-old, which honestly might be an insult to a 2-year-old, man, because come on, man. In what fucking world is it appropriate to ask the senator who just asked you a serious question whether or not she's ever blacked out drunk? That is one of the most disgusting things I've seen. It doesn't make any sense, and it's so out of place. And this is the guy who you're going to put on the Supreme Court. If the Republicans end up confirming this guy, this is going to be one of the shittiest things that they have ever done, because you just put someone who is so massively incompetent, clearly incompetent, exhibiting characteristics of incompetence left and right all throughout his low-light shit session of a hearing. If you actually confirm that guy, that is one of the most embarrassing things ever, because this guy is so obviously and so clearly incompetent to serve as one of the Supreme Court justices, a justice on the highest court of the land, that if you actually end up confirming this guy for reasons that, let's say, you don't believe in the sexual assault allegations, even just by seeing the characteristics that are exhibited by this man, you should not want to put this man on the court because he's so clearly unfit to serve. He definitely should not be confirmed to the court, man. No way.